The Starship's potentials is starting to stir the interest of planetary scientists. It has the potential to provide a revolutionary new way of exploring these worlds. But that's not all they had to say. Watch the video ahead to know more. Hello guys, welcome back to another exciting video from Futurism. In today's video, we explain what planetary scientists recently revealed about the potentials of SpaceX Starship. But before we go any further, please subscribe to our channel and enable notifications so you never miss a video from us. Now, let's begin. Jennifer Heldmann sat at her desk, staring at the computer screens as the rocket's upper stage collided with the crater near the moon's south pole. A 2.3-ton chunk of steel struck the moon with the force of 2 tons of TNT in the name of science. It was October 2007, and Heldmann was watching the impact from inside NASA's Ames Science Operations Center in California. She was working on her first major missions for NASA as a 33-year-old planetary scientist, coordinating observations of the impact with ground-based telescopes. With the L-Cross missions, NASA hoped to break the ice. Despite the fact that the Apollo landings in the 1960s and early 1970s revealed a gray and barren world, scientists had come to believe that pockets of ice were trapped beneath the rims of craters in permanent darkness at the poles. The remnants of billions of years of cometary impacts. Centaur's missions was to destroy one of these craters to see if the scientists were correct. After reviewing the data, NASA announced that it had discovered water in the vapor plume created by the Centaur impact, as well as material ejected by the blast. This was a watershed moment in Heldmann's career. Her interest as planetary scientist in following water was cemented by the experience. "It's truly amazing how profound the results of that missions have been," she said. The discovery of water ice on the moon marked the beginning of an era in which planetary scientists discovered ice and water all over the solar system, on the ice-encrusted Europa and Enceladus, on and beneath the surface of Mars, and potentially in even more remote locations, such as Pluto's interior or Neptune's largest moon, Triton. When scientists looked beyond the Earth, they discovered that water was almost everywhere. These discoveries opened up a slew of intriguing possibilities. Life may have developed where there's or was once water. Scientists began looking for living organisms in the large oceans of Europa, Enceladus, and other planets, rather than just fossils in the long dry lake beds on Mars. The abundance of water also provided an excellent opportunity for human explorations. Whether there is water, there is liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, which are the components of rocket fuel. These discoveries have had a significant impact on NASA's science and human spaceflight programs. NASA's annual planetary science budget, which is around $3 billion per year, has been increasingly leveraged to support missions that may find past or even present life in other worlds. And over the last 4 years, NASA has been developing a plan to send astronauts to the moon, possibly to extract water as a precursor to sending humans to Mars. There is always more questions than answers for scientists, and there are always far more missions that they want to fly than there are funds to do so. The abundance of water has only fueled scientists' desire to send robots into the solar system to definitely locate and characterize ice deposits and subsurface oceans. We're discovering that the solar system contains far more secrets than we could have imagined, which makes our inability to fly out there and discover them all more frustrating. But what if we were able to? Some planetary scientists are warming the idea of the SpaceX new Starship rocket, with its unprecedented lift capabilities and potentially paradigm-shifting low cost, could usher in a new era of explorations in the solar system. Consider sending a lander to Europa, which is home to a vast, warm subsurface oceans. During recent NASA planning meetings, scientists discussed sending a complex spacecraft worth billions of dollars to Europa to conduct science. At best, they hope to land a payload of scientific instruments the size and weight of a mini refrigerator there. NASA, on the other hand, could land a cache of scientific payload the size of a single-story unfurnished house on Starship. You can really take advantage of the Starship architecture and get to the outer solar systems in ways we hadn't considered before, Heldmann said. It had the potential to provide a revolutionary new way of exploring these worlds. Origins of a Starship. Engineers at SpaceX have been hard at work on our Starships about 5 years, and they have completed several early test flights in the last dozen months or so. Much technical work remains, but the company appears to be well on its way to deliver a fully reusable, low-cost, super heavy-lift rocket capable of delivering up to 100 tons to the surface of the most bodies in the solar system. Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX, sees Starships as the key rocket for transporting humans to Mars and eventually establishing a self-sustaining settlement there. However, such a vehicle would have numerous other applications in science, explorations, and defense. Although a highly reliable version of the Starship is unlikely to be available for several years, the vehicle could begin a series of orbital test flights in early 2022. NASA's Human Exploration Program is now so confident in Starship that it has chosen it to serve as a landing system for its Artemis moon program. If Starship fails, NASA will not return to the moon. Starships can deliver unprecedented amounts of payload to Mars and other destinations, Heldmann said. Because this capability is extraordinary, planetary scientists must consider how to capitalize on it. And if we want to take advantage of these opportunities, such as having payloads on uncrewed test flights, we must act quickly. SpaceX first approached the planetary science community in 2018 with a series of Mars workshops that addresses basic questions such as potential landing sites on Mars and knowledge gaps that must be filled before people can safely live and work on the planet's surface. The companies invited prominent names from the Mars research community to participate, and several dozens did. Some people already believed in SpaceX visions, while others were skeptical. As SpaceX built and tested prototypes, even some of the skeptics began to believe that Starships was a real possibility. As Starships become more real, it changed people's minds. Tanya Harrison, a planetary scientist and Mars expert who attended the meeting, said, "The selections of the Starships for lunar missions was a huge credibility boost. Everything we could do." As scientists begin to think less about mass as a constraint, they will encounter new challenges in developing more planetary spacecraft. Only a few people in the world know how to build such vehicles, and training more will take time. There are also only a few ground-based facilities where the spacecraft can be vacuum and vibrations tested. Then there's the issue cost. The most expensive part of a scientist's probe launch isn't the rocket, but the spacecraft. I don't expect the Science Missions Directorate budget to suddenly double just because Starship is flying, the NASA official said. However, with the ability to launch frequently, Starships may be able to reduce those costs in the long run. Consider the possibility of SpaceX providing a regular rideshare flight to Jupiter every 2 years. A single Starship could carry several large and small probes using its power and propulsions to reach the Jupiter system. Once there, each spacecraft could fly into their orbits or destinations. With the Starships relaying communications back to Earth, this would result in significant weight and propellant savings for each spacecraft. SpaceX may launch its first Starships to Mars in 2024. It will most likely be a test flight to demonstrate that the massive vehicle can perform a trans-Mars injections and then enter orbit around the red planet. NASA's schedule is too tight to fit any science probes on these first missions, but the next Mars windows opens at the end of 2026. That appears to be a more realistic goal for both SpaceX and NASA. If NASA wanted to load up Starships bound for Mars at that time frame, it has a wide range of options. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory could create a replica of the Perseverance rover with a completely different set of scientific instruments. The space agency may launch a pair of Mars Reconnaissance Observers clones to replace the planet's aging communications infrastructure. Engineers could scale up the Mars Oxygen in Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, or MOXIE, to produce oxygen from the Martian atmosphere in much larger quantities. NASA could also send a larger drill to drill deep into the subsurface to determine whether the interior is indeed warmer and wetter. We'd also be happy to fill up a Starship with ingenuities, said a NASA source, referring to the wildly successful helicopters that is still flying around Mars after landing earlier this year. Musk understands the significance of engaging with the scientific community and promoting the viability of Starships. Musk spent more than an hour last month speaking to scientists at the prestigious national academies, answering questions about Starships, planetary science, and others, more esoteric topics. Starships is intended to be generalized transport mechanisms for the entire solar system, Musk explained to the scientists. A 100-ton object could be transported to Europa's surface. It's a lot more than a smaller rocket could do. As a result, I think it's very exciting. We clearly still have a lot to prove. However, in terms of architecture, it is capable of transporting nearly any arbitrary mass to any solid surface in the solar system. There may be ice all over the solar system, but Musk was able to melt some of it back here on Earth that night. That brings us to the end of the story. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content and up-to-date information. We hope to see you again in the next video.